Our next guest is the founder of a billion-dollar business now considered by various measures the best place in Australia to work.
Melanie Perkins was once a university dropout from Perth, but now the co-founder and CEO of Canva. This is an easy-to-use online design tool that now employs over 350 people. Melanie joins us now in the studio. Melanie, thanks so much for being here. Your company is a unicorn, which is an incredible thing to be. That is when that's kind of the dream for tech startups, $1 billion valuation. Is that where you set the bar when you started, or is this kind of beyond your wildest dreams?
I think we've always had really wild dreams. We wanted to transform the entire world of design, but it is pretty cool to see like the work that our team's been doing being realised by so many people now across the world and investors.
Yeah, but you know that part. I don't think you're getting that. You know, starting just you and now worth $1 billion. You know, when you reflect on that whole path, can you actually get your head around what that has involved?
There's two different versions. So one is we feel like we've done just a tiny fraction of what we want. So we feel like we've done less than 1%. So that's sort of one part. And the other part is it's completely crazy. Like, it wasn't that many years ago that with my first company we were in my mum's living room just trying to scrape everything together, like try and pitch people to try and get them to work for us and not people not wanting to join our team. So kind of from two different measures. One, it's like we're a tiny fraction of the way. And the other way, it's pretty crazy. You've got to pinch yourself. If
we do go back right to the start when you were in your mum's living room and all that sort of stuff, why? Why Canva and why did you start it?
So I was teaching design programs when I was studying at uni, and I saw so many students struggling learning the very basics. It would take such a long time to learn where the buttons were, and I thought it should be easier and online. And then rather than trying to take on the entire world of design, we took on school yearbooks in Australia. And then that company started to go really well and launch internationally, and looked around, and a few years later, and still nothing had been done in so many other markets, and so we started Canva. But
where was the first big investment? At what point?
So with our first company, we bootstrapped that. So everything was organically funded. We had to build the company and invest.
Sell cupcakes to fund yourself.
Exactly. I did anything we possibly could. Stuff like mail campaigns ourselves to start building it. And then with Canva, I went to San Francisco. I spent about 9 months there. It was 3 years between first pitching investors and actually closing investment.
Wow.
So it was a very long journey to get the investors on board, get the team on board, and then another year of development. And then 5 years ago, we launched Canva. So it's sort of been a 10-year overnight success.
That seems an incredibly long time to be in America trying to get your story out there, get your business out there. Did you lose faith? I mean, did you know that this was going to end up happening for you?
Always had like a very clear picture of what I wanted the future to be, but it was definitely a really long time, like of pitching, getting rejected, revising our pitch deck hundreds of times, pitching so many different people. But I think that every time we were rejected, it just helped to refine our strategy and to become more sure of what we wanted the future to become. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of trials and tribulations along that path.
We notice you pop up in the media quite a bit because you have been crowned Australia's best workplace. Tell us a bit about the environment that you've created and why that's so appealing now.
I think one of the fundamental things have been, I've always wanted to create a company I wanted to work at. And so right from the very start, we always would have lunch together as a team back in my mum's living room. And then over the years, we've kept that as part of our culture. And so every single part of the company culture has sort of been an extension of that. We've got such an amazing team. But every single decision we're making is trying to help teams to realise crazy big goals rather than having lots of red tape and bureaucracy. And we have a pretty amazing team, and so every time someone starts, we're making sure that they're really getting and helping to make sure the culture extends and is awesome.
I wonder if is it easier to do that stuff as a bigger business now because you've got over 350 employees? Is it easier to do that because you've got systems in place? Like, you know, when you're a small business and, as you said, you're stuffing things in, in letter boxes and selling cupcakes or whatever, you kind of not got the time or the focus on that aspect of your business where you might have to have more structures in place as a bigger business?
Yeah, I think that culture isn't really about the perks. So you'll see a lot of fun things written out about, our climbing wall and our brewery at the office and all these other fun perks that we have. But I think culture really comes down to how you treat people and that environment that you create. So now we do have a lot of those sorts of things crystallised, like when people start, they have an amazing onboarding program. But I think right from the start, we've always wanted to ensure that everyone at work has a great time, that they have people to socialise with at lunchtime, that they aren't feeling isolated and lonely. So it's the small things that I think matter a lot more so than the perks.
I read there's a bar in the office as well.
There is.
I mean, that helps, right?
We do the perks pretty well. But I think that right from the early days, like, we've always cared a lot about how our team feels when they come to work, and to try and ensure they have a great culture.
Well, of course, and I mean, the best workplace. This is a good title to have, because you've got 350-ish employees now. Surely there's a line out the door and around the corner. I mean, is the next phase just massive expansion from Canva?
So yes, that we're expanding dramatically. We have an 8-storey building down the road that we're moving into shortly. We've got all around the block. We're getting some new buildings, but I think that, like, we've got 350 people now. We've got thousands of people that we'll need over the years to come. So definitely it's great to have that tick of best place to work, but I think that what that really enables us to do is to take steps in that bigger vision that we have, which is to empower the entire world to design. And it feels like we've just done such a small amount of that to date.
And what are the links with the US now? Do you have to have any kind of presence on the ground there as well?
So we're in 190 countries now, and the US is our biggest market, so we have a huge community over there. We have incredible investors over in San Francisco as well, and so we don't have a team based there, but we definitely have a huge presence there as a company.
Melanie, I'm guessing that there are a lot of people at home looking at you and thinking that's the dream, to get to become a unicorn. I mean, do you have any real firm tips that you could give to somebody who's starting out, who is in their mum's living room and trying to get their business off the ground?
I think I'll give 2 tips. So one is, it's really important to get started. It's not possible to know all of the things that you need to know when you're just starting out. And I think that it can be quite daunting. Like, if I was told I was going to be running a company with 350 people that's like growing like crazy, it would probably have been a little bit intimidating, and I probably wouldn't have really got started. But I think that when you do that, make that first little step, you'll learn so much, and then you'll be a little bit more experienced to take that next step. And so getting started is so critical, even if that's going and figuring out how to earn $100 on the weekend, like through some little business venture. I think that's really critical. And the other is a pastime of mine. I've always enjoyed imagining the future in quite a lot of detail. And I think it's a really fun thing to do for every industry under the sun. Imagine, like, what does the future of that industry look like if you were to fast forward 10, 20 years? And I think the more that you do that, the easier it is to place a company in a position that's going to be a growth market. But that shouldn't intimidate you from starting. So have the dreaming phase, but also have the just getting started, and just putting that first foot forward, because you'll learn so much.
Well, enthusiasm is kind of oozing out of you, so I think that's been a big part of it. Thank you very much, and no doubt so much hard work along the way. Melanie Perkins, thank you from Canva.
Thanks for having me.